In the silence of his study, Arthur Schopenhauer penned words that many would rather ignore. He wasn't out to please, nor to flatter the common sentiment. He was, instead, attempting to look directly at the human condition, without illusions, without masks, and in this brutal honesty he turned his gaze toward women, and what he saw disturbed him. Schopenhauer did not hate women. That's a lazy interpretation. What he feared was illusion. He believed that modern society had begun to idolize femininity in a way that contradicted reason, nature, and truth. And to Schopenhauer, truth mattered more than comfort. He wrote, "Women are by nature meant to obey. They are not meant to govern or shape the world, but to preserve it." This statement wasn't born of malice. It was born of biological determinism, the idea that nature designed us with roles, and any attempt to break those roles leads to disorder. Schopenhauer believed that women were governed more by instinct than by intellect, that their primary role was reproduction, continuity, not innovation or creation. In his essay On Women, he described them as the second sex, not in value, but in purpose. A reflection of nature's need for balance, not competition. But is that true? Or was Schopenhauer merely a prisoner of his time? Even in his time, Schopenhauer saw what few dared to admit: that men, when ruled by desire, often lose their reason, and women, knowingly or not, can wield that desire as power. He saw seduction not as a romantic game but as a battle for control, a test of who will manipulate and who will surrender. To Schopenhauer, love was not a noble ideal. It was biology in disguise. He wrote, "Love tricks us. We believe we are making a personal choice, but in truth, it is nature using us to continue the species." He believed women, more than men, were attuned to this hidden script. He described them as more pragmatic, more focused on the security and survival of their offspring. And while men chase ideals, women, in his view, chase certainty. Does this make women manipulative, or simply realistic? Schopenhauer didn't condemn women for being this way. He condemned men for not seeing it. He warned men against worshiping women, against turning them into idols of virtue or wisdom, because in doing so, he believed, men surrender their strength and become slaves to illusion. He saw the modern man as drifting, confused, weakened, seduced by appearances and detached from the harsh truths of nature. To him, a strong man wasn't the one who conquered women, but the one who mastered his desire for them. He wrote, "To marry is to put your future, your freedom, and your peace into the hands of chance, and often into the hands of one who was not made to protect them." These ideas weren't popular. They were shocking. But perhaps that's why they still echo today. In the 21st century, we live in a world where gender roles have been redefined, reversed, or erased. But the questions Schopenhauer raised remain. What do we want from each other? What drives our relationships, reason or biology? Is love a conscious choice, or a trap set by nature? And most importantly, have we grown wiser, or just more distracted? To read Schopenhauer is not to agree with him. It is to be challenged, to see yourself not as you wish to be but as nature made you. And for men, his work is a mirror, not of who women are, but of who we become when we forget ourselves. So the shocking truth, as Schopenhauer saw it, is not just about women, it's about men. It's about how easily we abandon our purpose for comfort, how quickly we trade reason for pleasure, how often we seek meaning in others when we have not found it within ourselves. Schopenhauer wanted men to wake up, not to hate women, but to see through the illusion, to become self-possessed, to live in alignment with nature, not fantasy. And that truth, though centuries old, might be more relevant today than ever. Schopenhauer did not write to soothe the ego. He wrote to awaken the soul, and in his cold, piercing logic, he touched a nerve that still throbs in the heart of modern man. He believed that the relationship between the sexes was not built on equality as we imagine it today, but on asymmetry, on a deep biological imbalance that men refuse to see because they are too easily seduced by beauty, by charm, and by the illusion of romance. He said, "The eternal feminine draws us upward," quoting Goethe, only to add, "but it also pulls us down when we confuse attraction with truth." To Schopenhauer, the modern man had become spiritually neutered. He no longer governs himself. He lives for validation, especially from women. He works to impress. He builds to attract. He suffers silently, hoping for affection in return. But this, to Schopenhauer, was the root of suffering: expectation, especially in love. Schopenhauer would say, "No, you are simply an agent of nature's cruel agenda." This is the real shock, that we are not free, that even in our deepest feelings, we are being used by something beyond us. A woman's beauty, a distraction, a man's desire, a trap, love, a trick. Nature, not sentiment, is the true author of romance. And while women, in his view, were more attuned to this biological realism, men are the dreamers, chasing ideals, writing poems, dying for affection. But it is precisely this idealism that destroys them. Schopenhauer warned, "Women are like flowers, beautiful in bloom, but destined to fade. The man who gives his life to the flower must watch it wither, and with it, his own soul." To most, these words are cruel. But to the philosopher, they are necessary. Because to live clearly, one must first see clearly, even if it hurts. This is not about hate. This is about clarity. About recognizing that the illusions we cherish most are often the very chains that bind us. He saw how society elevates women to the level of moral saints, pure beings untouched by desire or ambition. But he also saw the truth, that every human being, man or woman, is driven by the will, and that no one is above nature. What Schopenhauer despised most was not femininity, but falseness. And in a world obsessed with pleasing others, he chose the harder path, truth without compromise. He believed that a man must detach, not just from women, but from the false images he projects onto them. He must strip away the fantasy. Only then can he become what Schopenhauer called the wise man, one who no longer seeks validation, one who no longer kneels before illusion. But what happens when a man awakens? He becomes dangerous, not to women, but to society's lies. He stops chasing. He no longer begs for attention. He redirects his energy inward, toward mastery, solitude, philosophy, and creation. He becomes self-sufficient, and in doing so, he becomes truly free. This is what modern men have forgotten. That power is not control over others, but control over the self. That strength is not loud, but silent. That masculinity is not measured by conquest, but by discipline. Schopenhauer didn't give men hope. He gave them responsibility. He didn't say, "Be loved." He said, "Be wise." He didn't say, "Win her heart." He said, "Master your own." So what is the shocking truth? It is this, that the world has lied to you, that love is not pure, that desire is not divine, that most of what you believe about women, about relationships, is built on sand, and that until you free yourself from this dream, you will never truly wake up. You see, Schopenhauer was not just criticizing women, he was diagnosing the modern condition of man, a man who no longer knows himself, a man who walks blindly into emotional traps and calls it love, a man who sacrifices his dreams to please, who silences his truth to avoid conflict, who lives not by reason, but by reaction. And all of it, he believed, stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of the feminine. Women, he argued, are not angels nor demons. They are human beings, shaped by nature, programmed by evolution and equipped with instincts that serve their role in the grand design of life. They are neither superior nor inferior, but different, deeply different. The problem, he said, is not woman herself, but man's fantasy about her. He wrote, Just as a man can drown in shallow water, he can also destroy himself by drowning in shallow illusions. And the deepest illusion is this, that a woman will save you, that she will fill the void inside you, that if you love her enough she will complete you. But Schopenhauer would laugh at such a thought. He would say, complete yourself first, or you will be forever incomplete. And here lies the essence of his warning. Do not seek wholeness in another, because no one, man or woman, can carry that burden. He saw that men who place women on a pedestal are not loving, they are worshipping. And worship, by its nature, leads to disappointment, because sooner or later, the pedestal cracks, the illusion fades, and the man, left with nothing but the cold reality, falls into despair. Schopenhauer knew that despair was the cost of delusion. So he pleaded with men, not to hate but to wake up. He wrote, "Every passion that enslaves you begins as a thought you refuse to question. And what is more enslaving than unchecked desire?" He believed that the most powerful men in history, philosophers, sages, mystics, all had one thing in common. They transcended the need for approval. They understood that love, if not balanced by reason, becomes a form of madness. He even admired the celibate monk more than the romantic poet, not because he hated life, but because he respected inner freedom more than external pleasure. For Schopenhauer, freedom was the highest virtue, and nothing threatens that freedom more than emotional dependence, especially the kind disguised as romance. So what do we do? Do we abandon love? Do we isolate ourselves? Not necessarily. What Schopenhauer suggests is something far harder and far more noble: to love with awareness, to desire without delusion, to engage without losing yourself. He believed in detachment, not withdrawal, in strength, not bitterness, in seeing clearly, not blindly. And perhaps this is what makes his words timeless, because no matter how much the world changes, the truth does not. Even now, in an age of digital temptation, where relationships are reduced to swipes and likes, Schopenhauer's warning still rings true. He who is not master of his desires will always be a servant to someone else's. This is the crisis of modern man. Not that he loves too little, but that he loves without understanding. Not that he desires, but that he doesn't know what drives his desire. Not that he suffers, but that he thinks his suffering is noble. Schopenhauer saw behind the veil. He knew that behind every heartbreak was not betrayal, but expectation. And behind every illusion was not a lie, but a man refusing to see the truth. So what now? The answer is simple, but not easy. Know yourself. Free yourself. Master yourself. Because only when you are complete, when your soul is whole, can you truly love without fear, without dependence, without illusion. Schopenhauer never said you must avoid women. He said, avoid losing yourself in them. Because the greatest tragedy is not that love ends, it's that in chasing it blindly, you forget who you are. Conclusion. In the end, Arthur Schopenhauer didn't hand us a map. He handed us a mirror. He did not say, follow me. He said, look within, because the enemy is not woman, and it is not love, it is not desire. The enemy is illusion, the illusion that something outside of you will complete what's broken within you, the illusion that happiness comes from being chosen, wanted, adored, the illusion that the soul can be saved by romance. Schopenhauer tore down that dream, not to destroy you, but to awaken you, to remind you that your power is not in pursuit, but in presence, not in pleasing others, but in protecting your mind, your purpose, and your peace. He knew that a man who does not master himself will always be mastered by something: a woman, a feeling, a fantasy, a lie. But the man who sees clearly, who walks alone if he must, who thinks deeply, who detaches without hatred, that man becomes dangerous, not to others, but to the illusions that once ruled him. And that is the real shocking truth. that women do not destroy men. Men destroy themselves by refusing to see the truth about women and about themselves. So let the world call you cold. Let them call you harsh, distant, hard to love. It does not matter. Because a man who is grounded in truth does not chase affection, he attracts respect. And in a world addicted to fantasy, a man who walks in truth is revolutionary.